Hello and welcome to the next episode of Two Girls Talk Transits. Today we're reviewing the astrology from December 1st through December 7th, and we're your host. I'm Maddie,
And I'm Kaleigh.
and welcome back. So we start off December with a brand new stinking moon in Sagittarius. So I'm gonna pull that up here. But we're looking at this new moon here at 9 degrees Sag, and it is next to Mercury retrograde at 20 degrees Sag.
Mm-hmm.
It's opposite Jupiter, the ruler, at 17 degrees Gemini, and then it's also squaring Saturn, who's at 12 degrees Pisces. I think those are really the main aspects of this new
Yeah.
moon.
I think the closest aspect we have though is that square to Saturn. So that's probably gonna
Yeah.
be like what we feel the most.
Yeah. So, like the new moons in Sag are usually, a Jupiter ruled sign, more positive, more optimistic, more about passion and like igniting a new adventure in your life,
Mm-hmm.
quite literally.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, as we've talked so much about with the Mercury Jupiter opposition, like we were talking before this podcast, there's a lot of big, hopeful expansion, probably attempting to grow or expand in those Sagittarius and Gemini houses. But it's like the Saturn square is this conflict, this limitation, this restriction, maybe in another part of your life, but that it limits that expansion or that new growth that you have been striving towards.
Yeah, so Saturn is kind of like the planet, like people sometimes associate it with like the father or like, that I don't want to say dictatorial, but it's kind of like dictatorial, like this
Yeah,
authoritative, I guess is the
authoritative is the
yeah.
word I usually use. Like it's like the stern teacher, the stern
Mhm.
master.
Yeah, so he will come along to tell you no. And, Sagittarius is like the archetype, if you just, look at it and you think about it, like Sagittarius is like this freedom-seeking, expansive, um, this energy, and it wants
Mhm.
all this like new growth and positive movement forward. And we're gonna see Saturn coming up here a couple times as it aspects throughout the week, but it is kind of this like damper on our excitement in some way or another.
Yeah, it is. And I just think too, like, Jupiter ruling the new moon retrograde, Mercury ruling
Yeah.
Jupiter in Sagittarius retrograde. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
so much here that it's like, I feel like we have a lot of optimism and a lot of hope about something. Like, something feels really kind of exciting and expansive, but there's just all this like foreshadowing of a review or foreshadowing of it not working out the way you thought or being more of a conflict that is going to take a lot of time being Saturn to work through. And I don't know, it's interesting, but I don't think it's anything necessarily new because we've had these aspects before, if we'll see.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
later in the week, we get the Mercury opposite Jupiter again. And we'll talk about that later. But like again, like there's a repeat aspect happening. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I guess as much as we want new, there is like repetition of the past. There is like some past themes here going on that doesn't allow us to necessarily have that fresh new start that we're hoping for.
It may be more too of like a new start of a past theme, like a restart of
Mm.
something you started in November, early November, and you like it fell off because Mercury square Saturn, it fell
Mm-hmm.
off, and then you're restarting that. Like
Ah, that's a really good point. And do you think that like that start would be like relative to like your Jupiter placement? Like maybe how you were trying to expand before you're like re-engaging with that expansion that didn't necessarily go like as far as you wanted it to go?
100%. Yeah, I would definitely, yes, if you want to be more personal, the Sagittarius and the Gemini houses are still really important, but where is your Jupiter placement? Because that is ruling the Sagittarius and the Pisces house of like, that is part of where you naturally want to expand natally in your chart.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and there's probably some connection there.
I was even thinking about like your transiting Jupiter, how you might have wanted to
Mm,
expand in that area as well.
which would be there in Gemini. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I usually like this new moon, but I feel like this is a new, like we're trying, it almost feels like we're trying to make the best out of like a really tough situation.
I could see that. Yeah, there's definitely being like limitations put on and some restrictions that, none of us like to hear that. Like
No.
nobody likes Saturn coming along and saying, "No, sorry, we're not going that way." But it usually I feel like Saturn is the he polishes, like he's like, it's
Mm.
gonna take some time because you have to evolve in these ways before we like get this thing out, before you officially go into it. Like, let me refine you. That I would think I think I would say that Saturn is like very refining.
It's so good. I like that keyword because we do hate on, I mean, I mostly hate on Saturn a lot.
Yeah, I get that.
But it is a necessary component, like to Saturn rules containers. Like, if we didn't have containers for like water or containers for like fire, like that would just engulf us or like destroy us. And even your skin is like Saturnian. It keeps everything in your body in place, like where it needs to be. Like there are necessary rules and restrictions. I think part of the work with Saturn is realizing, okay, I mastered this rule. Can I let it go? Can I take my lessons learned from it and then like move away from it? Or do I still feel these restrictions, limitations because I still, like you said, haven't learned what I need to do cleaner, better, more structurally?
That's interesting. Yeah. Do you know Elizabeth Olsen?
Yes.
She has this like little spiel about how she like loves restrictions. Like she loves to
Mm.
compartmentalize and she loves like to put rules on things. And I can't remember like what her ultimate like her whole thing was about it, but it was just basically talking about like how confinement can actually be really positive in the creative process because you have a
Mm.
direction to put everything. And if you just are in every which direction, like you end up dispersing energy in the wrong way. So
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, your talk with containers, it can kind of help to like streamline our energy, into like the right thing.
It's why Mars is exalted in Capricorn.
That's such a good point. Yeah.
Our action is now contained. Our action is restricted in a certain direction so that it's like impactful and like really powerful action because you have a goal and a direction with it. So,
Hmm.
yeah, there is a lot that is the positive side of Saturn. Like, if you do feel like you're being held down or restricted in some way, then there's something for you to learn about that restriction, or there's something in there that's actually guiding you. Even if the door closes, means you have to go find another direction, and you can't just stand in front of that door like crying about it.
Yeah, a closed door is still a message.
Right.
Hmm. Cool.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the new moon we start with. And then on the other note, we do have Venus in Capricorn, and on the 2nd of December, she will trine Uranus in Taurus.
Hmm.
So that's, I mean, I usually like that aspect. Like Venus and Capricorn, again, she's in the Saturn place, so she's contained with her like
Hmm.
ease and like growth. She's focusing on one area of your life and really trying to make it easier, especially when it comes to work and responsibilities. And then trining Uranus is just kind of disrupting that or like shocking that or like a little more excitement and flow, I think, with relationships or things that you are creating, Venus being a lot of creation energy.
Yeah. I think Venus in general, like if we're to separate it from, our individual birth charts and everything, Venus can really speak to like our relationships. But in the sign of Capricorn, I can see like we're relating it more maybe now to work related things. So yeah, I feel like it might be with a trine aspect here, that's like positive. So we might have like a positive shift or an exciting shift, like you said, like something happens like out of the ordinary that, you know, reignites our passions or like is thriving or is helping us thrive in like the work sphere.
Yeah, exactly. There's something that's just like it's a good disruption. It's a good change
Mhm.
relationally. It's a good change in terms of like, oh, this is exciting. This is like, oh, some information. I don't know. It's a more like positive again coming off of the new moon. So there's like this more optimism kind of taste still. And I think it's like that can funnel into a change or a disruption in a way that's exciting for you.
Yeah, I think we really do have like both energies at play this week, like we do have positivity here. Not everything is going to feel like restriction. I mean, naturally when we have like all these Sag placements, we're going to be a little bit more optimistic than we might typically be, but yeah, I think we this is like a good example of how we are going to have some positivity intertwined here too.
Yeah. So from there, then we kind of go a little bit back to the new moon, the fourth, which is like that Wednesday of that week, is a crazy day. I mean, when we go back, Mercury retrograde and Sagittarius comes opposite Jupiter and Gemini. And this is the same aspect that we had before Mercury was retrograde in November, mid-November, November 17th. So this may be like kind of a repeat back towards that day. Again, like speaking to the new moon kind of being a restart of something you've already started, like maybe you got a big idea, a big belief, a big truth come to light in mid-November, and now you were reviewing it or it's being tested.
Mhm.
And you're like, is this actually true? Do I still believe this? Or there's something being challenged because on that same day, too, the sun is completing the square with Saturn,
That's interesting.
right?
Mhm.
There's like some sort of instant restriction, some sort of instant no, or like limitation as you rethinking your beliefs in your direction or that information that you were pulling in previously.
Mhm. That's interesting. Yeah, we do definitely have like that review piece here. So it might speak to like something that we had in the past, is worth like continuing forward with or, putting in, more effort. We're reviewing it in some way. And I think that again speaks to like that Jupiter transit expansion that we were talking about before.
Right, reviewing an expansion and reviewing that growth. I think
Yeah.
when I was talking about this aspect at the beginning, or like when it first happened back on the 17th of November, it was more a lot about like grand ideas and maybe a little bit of delusion or like overconfidence of ideas. And
Yeah.
because the sun is squaring Saturn on this day too, it may be like the proof that your idea was false, or like you've
Mm.
been proven wrong, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh
And then
yeah,
now
because
there's
it's in its opposite signs. So we were talking about
right.
that. Yeah, I remember that.
You've been proven wrong, or like somebody has another idea that challenges yours and you're forced to rethink it, being the retrograde, being the review period now.
Mm. That's interesting. Yeah, I wonder like how that's gonna kind of come to play. We can like Maddie's really into predictive astrology. We can, make predictions and stuff, but they will be very loose. We can only really speak to like the energetics at play. Um, but how it like plays out in each individual life, I feel like will be really interesting to see, what that speaks to.
Yeah, well, I mean, collectively, like what we're recording this on November 22nd, so early, we are looking at this early. But this week, um, Matt Gaetz was like Trump appointed Matt Gaetz as the attorney general, and this week he withdrew from that nomination. So it could be,
Mm,
a lot of these Mercury opposite Jupiter around the 17th and stuff with a lot of picks of Trump's cabinets actually happening around that aspect. Hyper
interesting.
confidence,
Yeah.
hyper belief that this is my cabinet, that this is what I'm doing. And I mean, we're already starting to see some of that review happening. I wonder if that will be like a bigger theme. Like that could be an exsample
Or
of like
even
something.
his like tax policy that has been like so talked about lately.
Oh, I haven't been paying attention to that,
That's a
so
big one lately. People have been really,
really.
yeah, because like people in the financial sphere, like economic sphere, are like trying to do some future planning, especially when it comes to investments and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that it's just been a big topic right now. So I think we're going to see some of the play out of that. It's not going to be implemented, I think, for another 2 months, but
Right, it's not gonna be implemented, but the discussions, the
Mhm.
like ideas, like these are all ideas. So that's what I was saying before in a previous podcast. Nothing has really happened yet, but that's Mercury and that's Jupiter in these signs. So it's the big ideas. But yeah, I could see like a big review or big challenge of those policies or all of that just promotes some review.
And I could see like, with a Saturn square right here, it not being as good as people thought it was going to be because I think like a majority of Trump voters had voted for him because of the financial aspect of things.
Yeah.
So it would be very interesting to see like, oh, you actually thought this was going to be good, but it's actually going to make things more expensive, like more inflation. Here you go. And that's just, I mean, I don't know for sure if that's going to
No, but
happen.
no, that's the truth. Like that has been, I mean, I'm not in retail anymore, but when I was in retail, we had no issue of like raising prices on speculation. Like that was my role. I was a manager and I was a price changer. And so like anytime there was any sort of speculation about the economy or anything, we would get a new set list of prices and they would all go up. And
Mm,
I've seen on TikToks of some examples of that already happening in grocery stores because they're anticipating the tariffs, so they're trying to
yeah.
grab their profits now. So
Mhm.
it may be a big moment of where that's like really happening. And there's this sort of like, wait, what? I did not know that that was going to be the
Be
outcome of
that,
this.
yeah. Oh, and excuse me, I think I said taxes before I meant tariffs.
Oh,
Yeah.
tariffs.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I was like, I didn't hear anything about the
Mm-mm.
taxes.
Yeah, sorry. That was my mistake. Yeah, I'm not in that realm
Yes, the
about you.
tariffs are a
Hmm.
huge conversation for sure. Like that's a really important piece because we do import almost everything.
Yeah, I know. I'm super interested to see how that's going to play out because I think he's doing it because of China's
Mm,
economy, and I think he's
yeah,
wanting to like hurt them in a way, but I don't know. I really
you need to
can't speak
focus on
to it.
America.
Right. Mm-mm.
But yeah, all that to say is that I think that could be a big theme for this week. And then like on a personal level, it would just be more smaller personal things that are going on in your life that you have been talking about, hopeful about, and maybe now reviewing a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
The last thing on that day, the fourth of that Wednesday as well, is Venus will sextile Neptune. So again, there's still like there's still a little hope, like a little
Mm.
positive
It seems
gift.
like it's coming in through the Venus also, like,
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, like where Venus is in Capricorn, like the sextile to Neptune. I love Venus and Neptune aspects. Like it's way too like lovey-dovey and like, a little delusional, but it's super cute and like connective with others.
Yeah, I have natally right now I have Venus or I have Neptune conjuncting my Venus, I'm pretty sure. I'll have to
Yeah.
like double check, but it is like a very lovey-dovey aspect. It's having those rose-colored glasses though too, so you have to be a little bit careful,
Mm,
but nonetheless, I think it's like a nice reprieve from any other tensions or stresses that you might feel going on. It's in any case, I think this day, what was it, the day on the 4th?
yeah.
I think it could be a good time to just like spend time with people that you love and like I actually don't know what day of the week that'll be. Let's see.
It's Wednesday. I've been trying. Somebody was like, I don't know the dates of the day. I was like, you know what? That's a good point. I don't either. So I'll try and give you
Right.
the days of the week now.
Yeah, that's true. We should start implementing that. So that'll be on Wednesday.
Yeah.
We'll be having some
Well,
more. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna add on to what you're saying because it was exactly right. Like I was thinking when you were saying that is that like the Mercury aspect and the Sun aspect are really like mental planets. Like Mercury is literally our brain, and the Sun is
Hmm.
like our soul awareness.
Yeah.
And so personally, we're probably experiencing a little bit of like self-doubt or like reviewing again, like I said, our thoughts and our beliefs. And so the reprieve or the help with Venus is like sharing that with somebody else like hey, I'm really struggling with this, like, and they probably are too, they're just in a different personal story, but you are both able to connect and relate and have that oneness with Neptune and Venus and like support each other in that way.
Yeah, that's a really good point to make because, Mercury will be in retrograde in a fallen space, right?
Or
So,
detriment, but yeah.
or yeah,
Yeah,
detriment
yeah.
space. Yeah, so we're going to be just, Mercury is uncomfortable in general. So the mental sphere for all of us might just be like a little bit out of whack.
Right.
Yeah, so like you said, time with friends, hanging out with people that you love, sharing how you're feeling could yeah, help to just, you know, help you feel better like on an internal level.
Yeah, there's an ability to like connect and like share your problems, like
Mhm.
to have that connection and like be understood and be heard and like maybe get inspiration from your relationships of how to solve those problems. So it's good and bad. Definitely good and bad this week. And I
Right.
think we said that.
Right. And then the last aspect that we have is Sun and Sag conjunct Mercury, retrograde,
Mm,
Sag. Yeah.
yeah. That is the heart of the retrograde cycle. So, they do this twice. Like this speaks a lot to like Mercury cycle, but Mercury has been ahead of the sun and then it's been traveling in front of the sun for some time. And so then it's stationed retrograde and is now coming closer to the sun. And because it's been ahead of the sun, it's gathered information that the sun has not seen yet.
Mhm, mhm.
And so sometimes Mercury is our little diviner in astrology, like it is like the witch and like the magician and all of that. So it is a little bit of that like foreshadowing of like, hey, this is coming up, or like, there's a little greater understanding. Like our mental processes are not as strong in Sagittarius, but whenever we get a Mercury Sun conjunction, we usually get like an aha moment or something clicks, or we are able to like piece things together in a new light that we haven't been able to.
That's good though. So then we have something like to look forward to. I think too, um, like Mercury and Sag kind of like craves understanding. So
Mm.
we have that to kind of look forward to at the end, like a little bit. Then this will be on Thursday. We have that
Yes.
to look to at the end of the week, some clarity or like a light at the end of the tunnel, like illuminating some things that maybe we weren't 100% aware of before.
Yeah, I think so for sure because there's going to be like, we've had all these Mercury aspects in the beginning of this week where it's probably promoting a lot of confusion or uncertainty, or like, what do I do if I'm being restricted by Saturn in this area of my life? I can't actually do what I thought I wanted to do. And then you problem solve. Like, and you're like, okay. No, I always like the latter half of the Mercury retrograde cycle, and Mercury is behind the sun because I feel like it's stuff that you're more comfortable reviewing. Like I feel like the first half of the Mercury retrograde cycle, again, because it's ahead of the sun, it's like, oh, this is shocking. Oh wow, I didn't know that that was gonna come back around to me.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so in this part we'll be speaking of this will be the first half of it though, right?
Yeah, after the conjunction, then we'll be next week, we'll be
Week,
in the second half. Yeah.
right. Yeah, so it'll probably be a bit more comfortable in the second half, just assuming that those things that you are reviewing aren't like painful.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So I know it's an up and down week. That's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there's no major aspects, but the moon for Friday will be in Aquarius and it will square Uranus at some point, like later in the day,
Mhm.
and maybe a little bit of emotional disruption.
Yeah.
And then I think there wasn't much else for Saturday. So really for this week is about kind of working through, those mental ideas, those creative ideas, the things that you were expanding on, especially as they relate to like November, mid-November, and what newness you're cultivating from that and just refinement from that process.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, if you want more content from us, we are mostly on TikTok at Two Girls Talk Transits. We're also on Instagram and YouTube, Two Girls Talk Transits.
Mm-hmm. And then you can find me heal.on earth on Instagram. Maddie, where can people find you?
Maddie.delray on Instagram, and my website's at maddiedelray.com. So we'll see you all next week.
See you.
Bye.